Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. Please forgive the sound of my voice. As you can probably tell, I'm very tired. Um, it's been a very physically and emotionally exhausting week for me, dealing with the passing of my mother and everything. So I'm gonna try to make this fairly quick because I really don't have the I don't know. I'm just not completely all there yet, but I just want to thank everybody for the well wishes and for the outpouring of love and support, whether it be on Twitter or in the comment sections. I know that, Nerdette, tweeted that I need some support. So thank you to everybody, both on the interwebs and especially those off of it. I've been in touch with my brother, I've been in touch with some extended family, and of course, there's my spiritual family, my congregation, and everybody has been a big help. But the reality is that, as much as people can support you and pray for you and send you positive vibes, in the end, you're the one who has to go through it. You're the one who has to feel it and deal with the fallout of it all. But the support um, is very much appreciated, and I know I've said like thank you 1,000 times online, but again, thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone. It means a lot. It means a lot. But I just wanted to just briefly cover sort of these two tweets here, which I think encompass two topics that I've spoken about before on my channel. Which one is censorship, and when censorship goes too far, right? And then this tweet here, which is quote tweeting a Marvel Studios writer by the name of Tim Sheridan, uh, which is talking about making a new character. Or Tim's tweet, to be fair, I've seen both of his tweets, but they're more leaning toward about LGBTQ individuals and how those characters tend to not be very popular with comic fans, which I think is a bit of a dishonest position to take. But it's this idea of sort of the motivations behind like mantle switches or things of that nature, right? So I'm gonna go over them, go over both sort of topics real quick. So for those who may not know, especially if you're not on Twitter, lucky you, this is Manga Up Global, which apparently is owned by Square Enix. So according to their um, Twitter profile here, they are the official manga app, right? So it's not just some sort of fan thing or whatever. This is official by Square Enix. Read hot series like Full Metal Alchemist, Dress Up Darling, and more. So it talks about censorship of on the app, right? So it says here, in consideration of each mobile platform's policy, some modifications were unavoidable to release the app to the whole world outside of Japan. This is not limited to only English-speaking countries. While we are still in the early exploratory stages and will strive to improve while listening to your feedback. In the meanwhile, some of the content is available uncensored through the other official streams, so please continue supporting the artist. Thank you for your patience. Now, here's the thing, and I've said it before. I tend to take a more nuanced approach when it comes to censorship, especially when you're talking about something which is very international. And this is clearly addressing the need for censorship in some regard as regards to international release, as it says here, for the whole world outside of Japan. Right? And for those who are maybe newer and haven't seen some of my older videos, my general approach to censorship is that I understand it depending on the content and the context. I am not a fan of it, but I do understand why in some instances it might happen, right? Especially when taking into account the cultural sensitivities and norms of a country outside of your own, right? Censorship in media has always existed in some fashion, whether it was changing the names of the religious items in the original Castlevania game when they brought it to America. For example, the cross is now just a giant X or a boomerang. The holy water is a potion, stuff of that nature. Or whether it's, you know, TV shows and whatnot refusing to film Elvis uh, below the waist because they were concerned that his swiveling hips would make kids want to have sex, make teenagers want to have sex. So censorship has always been around. It's in every culture. It exists in every time period. There will always be this battle between, um, the artist and those who are more pro artist. Pro. Let's just be honest. Usually pro indecency in some fashion, and then those who are a bit more wound up tight, and who are censorious. And there will always be this battle of just how indecent can you be in the public space as an artist, right? So it's nothing new, and it's not going away. And I'm not one of those folks who's an absolutist on either side of it. I look at stuff more, at least I try to, on a more situational basis, right? But the censorship here, right, is, in my opinion, the logical conclusion, right? And it makes the argument that more anti censorship or pro artist folks, which is where I generally tend to lean. So I'm not going to act as I'm completely neutral. I'm not, right? Right? It proves the argument they've been making. Now, let me show a few images down here, right? In particular, this, right? As you may see, right, this woman's pants, right, are censored, as you can see here. Here's the thing, there is an uncensored version floating around, right? There's nothing wrong with her pants, right? The problem with this type of censorship, when taken to an absurd degree, is the fact that, well, there's many issues, but I'm just gonna focus on two. One is the fact that when you do censorship like this, right? And they honestly are at this point, because I've seen other images and whatnot, are censoring women's bodies. There's nothing obscene or lewd or suggestive or sexual or all that revealing about this woman's outfit, right? She's got a pair of pants on, she has a shirt on, she has looks like a light jacket, maybe a blazer or something on as well. There's nothing indecent about this, at least from a Western standpoint, right? Yet there's this censor bar over her groin because she's wearing pants. So naturally, the how do I put it? We all know how pants fit, right? That's basically it. Ever worn a pair of pants, you understand how they fit around your trunk area, right? And since these are not exactly very large or roomy pants, they seem a bit more fitted to her figure, right? You now have this sensor bar over her crotch. First of all, the sensor bar brings undue attention to the very part of the body that you're trying to censor. So, good work. Whereas if it's uncensored, a person's not likely to look in that area, right? Now, because you have this black bar, you now bring attention to it. I've seen a similar image where her shirt they have a black bar, black sensor bar over her chest because her chest is large. So it's like, yes, how smart of you. Let's bring more attention to her big boobs by putting a black bar over it that obviously clashes with the rest of the image. But this makes the image seem more lewd and more obscene than it actually is. Right? If you've never seen the uncensored version, then your mind is going to look at this and try to fill in the blanks. Why is this censored? What's wrong with this image? Did she soil herself? Is she exposed down there? Right? Your mind tries to fill in the blanks to make sense of it. So it actually makes it more lewd and more obscene and makes it a much larger issue than it would have been had you just simply left the image alone, right? Now, to be fair, I've seen images also of censored art on this app that is a bit more fan servicey, but still, right? The damage is done. If you cannot, um, if you need to go to this point of censorship, just censoring a woman's groin, because oh no, fitted pair of pants, perhaps you just should not release this work to, as someone said here, the Saudi Arabian standard, which is another issue, right? Now, look, I'm not, in general, I am not against making reasonable edits to a work, especially if you're trying to get that work released in more conservative countries. Saudi Arabia being an example. Let me give a pro wrestling example. WWE once a year, at least I think it's once a year, does a show in Saudi Arabia called Crown Jewel, right? And when the women, who typically wear very skimpy, wrestling outfits, when they work in the U.S., when the women go over there, they have to wear full body suits and usually a T-shirt over the bodysuit to be mindful of the culture. Now, do I agree with the censoring of the women? No, not at all. But it's either you make this concession and at least allow them to show off their talents, right? Allow them to put on a show for the audience, or you don't feature them at all, right? Some would say Vince shouldn't be doing, well, Vince is no longer a CEO, but prior to that, Vince shouldn't even be doing the show in the Middle East, and that's another conversation for another day. But it's like, okay, you can either cover them up and still let them perform, or you can leave them off the show, which means that they don't get to show off their skills, they don't get a payday. So it's like you have to figure out what you're willing to give and what you're willing to get, what are you willing to lose and what are you willing to gain. But it would be entirely different if WWE said that the women always outside of America have to wear T-shirts and have to wear bodysuits to wrestling, regardless of country, right? Not just we're just doing it in Saudi Arabia and you can wear your normal gear everywhere else that we go outside of the U.S., but applied the Saudi standard to every country, whether it be Germany or England or Japan or Mexico or any other place, right? That's the problem here. It gives the impression that you're going to apply this overly censorious standard to, as you said, the world outside of Japan, not just English speaking countries. The thing is that each of these countries have different standards. The standards in the US and the standards in the Congo, right, are entirely different, right? Both are outside of Japan, right? The standards between Canada and the standard between Cambodia are completely different. Both outside of Japan, but they have very very different cultures, and especially when it comes to a woman's body and female modesty and decency and all this other stuff, right? It's one thing if you're making something that is region specific or country specific. It's another if you take the most censorious standard you have, which to my opinion is not just censorious, it's now just become absurd and obscene in its own way. And now you apply that across the board to every country outside of Japan. That's not good, right? And you saying, oh, well, the official uncensored version is still available elsewhere is not a good cop out. This isn't about whether or not the uncensored version is still available. Of course, the uncensored version is still available. It's the internet. I can easily read whatever manga is on this app online for free. That's not the point. The point is that you guys right? That this manga app owned by Square Enix is allowing censorship to this degree. It's a poor cop out. It's unacceptable in my opinion. And then there's the fact that in this particular game, and this is where sort of where I don't want to say take it personal, but I guess where I get a bit more invested. It says here that you can read series like Full Metal Alchemist on this app. Anybody familiar with FMA, in particular the manga, will know that Hiromu Arakawa, a woman, right, a Japanese woman, worked very hard when she was doing FMA back in like the early and mid 2000s to have her female characters look the way they do. Right, they tend to be very busty. You have a few like Lanfan who aren't like that, but most of the female characters, especially the well-known, very prominent ones, Winry, Riza, Lust, Izumi, they're very busty. And certain characters like Lust and Izumi show cleavage, and they literally have tattoos on their chest that draw your eye to their cleavage, right? Arakawa was very open back in the day when the series was going on about, first of all, her own personal sort of inspiration behind why the characters looked like that. Her general explanation was that she didn't want her characters to be overly skinny and look like they were starving. This was due to her real life experience and influence growing up and living and working on a farm for a good chunk of her life, right? Which also, the lessons she learned from that are also very obvious in Fullmetal Alchemist, right? In various ways, the whole, work for what you want, the Alchemist Creed and things like that, right? But the art is an expression of her, right? Her views, her story, right? The characters don't look that way just for the hell of it. She has an intent behind the various designs the characters have. She has spoken about, I think she said it was an argument she had with her editor about making Lust's chest larger. She wanted to make it larger, right? Because she was concerned about how the image would be received, right? And she won that battle, fortunately, but still. So even in the early and mid 2000s, a female creator in Japan still had to worry about, is my character's chest too big? So imagine now if you're reading FMA for the first time on this app in 2022, and every time you see most of the female characters in the series, there's a huge censor bar on their chest. First of all, that will hide certain things like Izumi's tattoo on her chest, Lust's tattoo on her chest. But also imagine if they did this not just for, oh no, a character, how dare a female have large visible breasts, but also for certain scenes that are actually tied to a character's story and their connection to other characters. For example, if you're familiar with the anime and especially the manga, you'll know that there's a scene where you see Riza topless from the back and you see this large, partially burned tattoo on her back. That's a very big reveal. There was nothing in the story prior indicating Riza had any tattoos, let alone anything like that. And that image ties to her story, her arc as a character, her connection to Roy in particular. And then if you're imagine that this reveal, right? Something that we've never seen or known about Riza previously up until that point in the story. Imagine if you're reading FMA for the first time and you have the misfortune of reading the censored version, and when you see this, you don't see the tattoo, you don't see the burn marks on the shoulder, you just see a large black rectangle. This goes beyond just changing a few words. This is now altering the artist's work. You are now basically mucking up the story. To which I say, no, 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 hell no, no. So as regarding censorship, I sincerely hope that Manga Up will reconsider. I sincerely hope that they are serious about just being in the exploratory stages and that they will listen to feedback. Because yeah, this in my opinion is unacceptable. This is unacceptable levels of censorship. I understand making concessions in certain situations, but when you're just literally censoring a woman's body, how dare she have a groin? How dare she have breast? Now you've gone too far, right? You have now just hit the logical conclusion. You have dove off the cliff, and you are landing right into flat out absurdity. So there's that. And then we have here Ashley Talks Comics, right? Saying, and this is a response or a retweet of Tim Sheridan, who's a writer at Marvel Studios and DC Comics and Netflix and all this other stuff. Tim writes, comic fans don't add stuff. By stuff, what he means is LGBTQ stuff, right? Like randomly flipping a character's sexuality, right? He says, don't add stuff to established characters, just create new characters. Creator creates new characters. Comic fans, I don't know them, I don't want to, this is trash. And then Ashley retweets him and says, when people say just make a new character, do they actually know how difficult it is to get a brand new character with no affiliations whatsoever staying power regardless of the quality of the character slash book? Yes. Yes. Fans are aware of this. More importantly, artists and writers are well aware of this. It's always a risk when you make something genuinely new that has no connection to something that is established. Every single iconic character that people know of in comics, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers, Black Widow, the X-Men, and all these others, were new characters once. Wolverine was a new character once, only had one story to his name. Hell, he didn't even have his own story. He was in the Hulk. He was introduced in Hulk. He got his butt kicked by the Hulk. Right? There was a time when Hulk was new and only had one story to his name. There was a time when X-Men were new and only had one story to their name. Every iconic character started out as a new character once that had little to no connection to anything that was established at the time. Now, to Ashley's point and to Tim's point, yes, it does become more difficult to make a character popular. It's not that it's difficult to make a new character, just make a character that doesn't exist yet. The problem is in that as a work goes on, right, and the fans become fans and they follow it, and certain things become established or solidified or generally understood to exist and be in a certain way, it becomes more and more difficult to introduce characters who fans will like and embrace. I'll use Mortal Kombat as an example. I know I'm sort of beating the horse with that, but it's old reliable for me. The the majority of the most well-known characters from the Mortal Kombat games, the ones that end up in the movies and all this other stuff, right, come from the first three games, Mortal Kombat to Mortal Kombat 3. So from 1992 to 1995. They started having an issue trying to introduce new characters with MK4, which was like 98, 99. Some of those characters, like Fujin and Tanya in particular, became popular and were later featured in other games. Fujin was actually added to Mortal Kombat 11, for example. So even recently, a character from that game was in the modern games. But most of the characters that were new for Mortal Kombat 4 did not last. They never used Kai again. They never used Jarek again. Right? Fans aren't calling for those characters to make a comeback. Same with the 3D era games. Nobody's asking for Movado or Bo Raicho or Darius. Some ask about Havoc, but not many. No one's asking about Su Hao. right? Or Moloch, or the various other characters that came out with the last like 3D era games, like what was it, Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon. So like the last three games in the main series, or even in the reboot, right? Like I haven't seen anybody ask about like when is Terra 4 gonna be put into another game? Nobody asked about Reiko. He may get a mention in the comics, but nobody really asked about him beyond that. So I will give them that, right? Your level of success of fans embracing a character does lessen as the series goes on. That is true. However, that is not an excuse to not try. That's not an excuse to just give up and just say, I can't make anything new. The fans won't like it. So let me just alter what's already here, which is what we see all the time. Let's take this mantle and move it onto this diverse hero, even though they had their own name, like Sam Wilson as the Falcon, right? Let's make him Captain America to elevate him when he didn't need to be elevated in the first place. Let's take Tim Drake or Bobby Drake and make them gay for the hell of it. That'll make fans happy. I want to know when these changes have ever actually worked to elevate a character. Making Bobby Drake gay out of the blue didn't help the character one damn bit. The writing was atrocious. Not just the story written by Bendis, where Jean Grey literally mind screws Bobby into being gay. I'm not talking just about that, but I'm talking about the stories written by Cena Grace. I read a few of those comics on both his runs. His second run got cut early. I think he had like one issue left and it never came out. How did a gay man writing a newly gay character as a walking talking stereotype helpful for Cena Grace himself? He got two chances at that, blew it both times, and then whined about Marvel not giving him what he needed. So how did that elevate Cena Grace's career? It didn't. He didn't go on to become a superstar writer. How did that elevate the character of Bobby Drake? It didn't. Or look at all these other changes. Has Tim Drake suddenly attained greater popularity as a character now that he's apparently bi? No. Has DC put this huge marketing push behind him? To a certain point, but certainly not to the same amount as, say, the whole John Kent thing, which is its own, can of worms, as it were. Have they told any interesting stories with Tim Drake now suddenly being bi for no reason at all? No. Have they actually elevated characters that actually are LGBTQ? Have they, for example, put a huge push in energy and time and investment into Midnighter and Apollo, the Authority, the literal gay married version of Batman and Superman? No. They put them in a book with Clark Kent Superman and then hardly talk about that book. That's what they do. You want to get mad at the fans for not liking these changes, yet the companies themselves seldom actually bank on these changes. They may bank on individuals like myself or the more critical crowd of online, making critiques of these things. But outside of that, they don't actually invest in these. They don't. You can even look at even though it's not exactly the same, She-Hulk, right? They allowed Jason Aaron, well, not just Jason Aaron, but Jason Aaron, Mariko Tamaki, and many others to wreck the character of She-Hulk in the comics, make her ugly in appearance and personality. And the moment they need a TV show, what happens? They reverse course, go back to the more classic version where she's beautiful and she actually has something of a personality. It's all a game in the end. It's all a game in the end. And you want to get mad at the fans because the fans don't want to embrace a poor, shoddy product. They don't want to embrace cheap pandering. But it's the fans' fault now. Yeah, I don't want you to add stuff to establish characters. I don't want you to add bad stuff to establish characters. I don't want For example, a bad Wolverine story. I refuse to read or spend any time on, let alone money on, a bad Wolverine story. I never read the Return of Wolverine storyline. Wolverine is my favorite character in comics. I did not read his return because I knew I was gonna hate it. I knew it. This is the problem. You turn fans off with poor writing, with controversial decisions that actually don't lead anywhere good, don't elevate the character, don't actually do anything for the writer or the company or the character. The company does not really invest in these changes in any major way, and then you want to lash out at the fans for not embracing it. It is not on the fans to embrace what you make just because you made it. Right? I don't have to spend money or time on something I am not interested in. It is on the creator. I don't care if it's a video game, a comic character, a song, a piece of art, or anything else. It is on the creator to make it palpable to me, the consumer, not the other way around. I don't have to accept a damn thing. I don't have to accept what you give me. If you give me poor art, if you give me controversial changes that actually don't do anything positive in any way, if you mistreat me or, ex- speak disrespectfully toward me online the way T. Franklin did and a few others have, or just flat out block me because I critiqued art when you're a writer looking at you, Tom Taylor, then no, I'm not obligated to like a damn thing that you do. I'm not obligated to like the changes that you make to established characters, and I'm not obligated to like the changes, or rather to like new characters that you make. You want me to like something, new or established, make it likable. For example, do you know what the hardest part for me reading the America Chavez run in 2017 when it was written by Gabby Rivera was? It was seeing how much potential there was there. Because I actually like America Chavez. I think she actually could be that young, hip, diverse, hero that hits all the check marks. She just needs good stories and a good writer. It's not impossible. Characters can be repackaged and reimagined. Happened for Jason Todd. People didn't like him as Robin. He gets murdered. They literally called a hotline to DC and said, we want him killed. we get the death in the family storyline, and then he eventually comes back, I think, as Azrael and then later Red Hood. It's not impossible. I would like to see good America Chavez stories. Same with, what's her name? Kamala Khan. I think she needs her own hero name and to stop standing in Carol Danvers' shadow as Miss Marvel. Right? But I would like to see her be written well and have interesting stories and be an interesting character. Right? I would love to see that. I have nothing against new characters. I have everything against poor quality. And then being told that I have to like crap and eat it. Or rather, eat crap and like the taste of it. No, I don't. And no, I don't. I don't have to accept anything. You are the one who has to appeal to me, not the other way around. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one, whenever that is. Please keep the positive vibes coming. It means a lot. Anyway, have a good day or night wherever you are. And for those wondering, RJ is fine. He's just snoozing as a cat does. Bye.